Hi, this is Mark Arnold with another Fun Ideas podcast. And today we have a returning guest, but he's always welcome on this show. He is Andrew the Slow Poisoner Goldfarb, and he now publishes Freaky Magazine. Yay!
You got my finger right on.
I gave you the finger, or you gave me the finger. Okay, but I got one. So how are you doing, and how's Freaky doing?
Freaky's good. You can see the other fingers right above my finger.
Oh, that is fingers. I was thinking that was some sort of weird, like Lost in Space robot pants or something.
Ooh, Lost in Space robot pants.
Yeah, you know how he's kind of lumpy around his, just. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I never really watched Lost in Space. I've tried it a few times, but
it's not for everyone's taste. And also, if you're an adult and you've never watched it before, I can see how Dr. Smith can get on one's nerves.
Yeah, the man's an icon.
Yeah. However, I watched it when I was a little kid, and I have the DVDs, and I'm like going through them, and I go, I remember this episode. I remember this one. So, now do I have nostalgia for it? It's just, no, I remember it. And it's like, I'm just a masochist that I have to go through all of them and just say, I've seen all of them now. And then I can live and move on to some other TV show that I've never seen all of before. So that's what I do.
Yeah, growing up in the 70s, because you're the same age as I.
Pretty much.
Your viewing choices were severely limited by your physical location, like what stations you could actually pull in, you know what I mean? Because you had like the UHF and the VHF, and one of them was like the basics, like 2 and 4 and 6. And then we had a few weird ones up in the UHF, like 44 and 40. And those are the ones that would show like weird stuff like The Outer Limits or Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
Like,
and they showed Lost in Space.
Yeah.
And so that's why I saw it. But I never saw all the episodes. It was just something as a kid, it's just like everything else. You flip on the TV. Oh, something to watch, Never made a habit of it, But there's certain ones I remember, and there's certain ones that are just, when I'm watching it now, I go, okay, I can see by this episode why it's kind of a cult hit. And I can see by these episodes, plural, why it can get on one's nerves if you aren't a true hardcore fan, because they're not that good. Some people might watch this and go, oh, sacrilege, but
yeah, I think whatever though that you watch when you're like 8, you will retain some affection for.
Yeah. Well, for me, I think I retained it like something I've watched my whole life. Anything. But for me, the biggie probably is like Sesame Street, just because that I probably saw at the earliest age of remembering, or Mr. Rogers just being plopped in front of the TV at 2, and seeing those.
Yeah, Sesame Street was a trip, but I mean the ones that really made an impact on me were probably the Croft ones, like
HR Puff and stuff.
Yeah,
and Bugaloos and Lidsville. Now the thing is, I watched all those things, but as a kid, I found them quite annoying. As an adult,
oh yeah, they're annoying. All that stuff is really campy, and sort of. I like that aspect though, and I like the low budgetness. I've been, because I've been doing some music videos. I'm going to be doing some other video projects next year, and I'm really inspired when I see what people do with very little money. They're trying to pull off something strange. And some of those shows, like you can tell, it's just made out of like cardboard and acid.
Well, when you watched it as a kid, did you enjoy it, or did you just watch it because it was on like some of these shows?
Oh, I watched it. I enjoyed it. Yeah. I don't remember ever just tolerating TV unless it was like the news. I remember always actively enjoying it, like Fantasy Island. Like I was just thrilled to be watching Fantasy Island. I think part of it is just the escape from reality. I mean, you're in your parents' reality. You're not really in your reality yet.
Right.
And so like to get away from it and go into the TV reality or the book reality or the comic reality, which brings us back to.
I guess I'll just ask it direct because I was trying to formulate something and see if you had the same opinion. And you may not, it doesn't matter. But it's like, I have a much greater tolerance for campy stuff and what you're saying, the low budget stuff now. In fact, I almost prefer it than high quality, well made stuff. And so, stuff like HR Puff and stuff as a little kid got on my nerves. And now it's like I can appreciate it for. It's probably because I can appreciate it on a different level. I mean, I know, like, there's things like maybe a homosexual subtext or something, or a drug subtext, or any other subtext that as a little kid you just go, it's just this annoying guy in a dragon costume or whatever. I don't know if you had any.
Yeah, well, there are some aspects I think of, like Bullwinkle, that just went over my head as a kid and I was just puzzled by. But now I really appreciate, you know what I mean? It's just so fast paced and crazy.
I didn't get Bullwinkle as a kid. I mean, I got some of the jokes, but and I had Keith Scott, who wrote that big Bullwinkle book a couple months ago, and it was where I first said I didn't know Bullwinkle was a continuing story when I was a kid, because I never really watched it like regularly or religiously, and I don't even know if it was on every day, but if it was, I didn't necessarily watch it. So it always seemed like whenever I watched Rocky and Bullwinkle, I enjoyed it, but they'd always say, stay tuned next time for this story and this story. And then you'd go watch it another time, and suddenly there's like, instead of them going to the moon, there's suddenly metal munching moon mice. And I said, oh, okay, now they're doing this. And I didn't know that there's actually multi-parts of an actual real long story arc, until I was about 12 when Channel 2 repeated them all. And they made a big deal. We're going to show Bullwinkle again in the original playdate order, which I said,
I think
great.
Sometimes we did get it jumbled, so I wasn't sure if it always continued. I think it was I figured it was sort of like Batman, where sometimes it does that, sometimes it doesn't. But the metal munching moon mice that you mentioned, that's like the greatest TV episode ever, as I recall. I should go watch that later.
Well, it's not just one episode. It's about, I don't know, I think that one's about like 18 episodes or something. It goes on for a bit.
I remember that one being amazing. When I am Freaky gets printed in Southern California, and sometimes I go down there to pick it up because I like to pick things up. They're heavy, and then it feels like stuff is real. And I will sometimes visit the Bullwinkle Sculpture that remains on Sunset Boulevard.
Is that out there again? Because they removed it for a while.
It's back. It's beautiful.
All right. Because I know they removed it to restore it, and then they kept it removed, I believe, because they were showing it off at some museum exhibition or something, and so it was just out of circulation. So if it's back on Sunset, that's great.
It's not far from Mutato, which is Mark Mother's music company, which is this crazy green flying saucer of a building, which used to house a plastic surgery office where murder was either took place or involved the doctors thereof.
Now, since you mentioned that about the Rocky and Bullwinkle statue, did you ever go back when J Ward Studios was still open and there's Dudley Do Right Emporium and all that stuff?
No, but there was a Bullwinkle pizza parlor in Campbell, California that I went to as a kid. Did you go to it?
Yes, I went to that. In fact,
it was fantastic.
To show how old I am, it'll be exactly 40 years ago. In 2 weeks that I celebrated my 15th birthday there. So, and people would say, why would you celebrate your 15th birthday at a kiddie restaurant? Well, they didn't have it when I was 5, so I celebrated it when I was 15. But actually, when I was 15, huge J Ward, huge Rocky and Bullwinkle fan. I mean, I was obsessed. I would go into that restaurant all the time and just pick up menu items, and I'd buy merchandise, anything that had Rocky and Bullwinkle on it. And I still have that stuff because I knew from past experience, they made small amounts of that stuff. And if you didn't buy it right away, it was gone. And then you
knew that at 15?
Yeah.
You are a nerd's nerd there.
I am a nerd's nerd. Well, it's like, I mean, we talked about Mad before. I started reading Mad at 7. I started reading Lampoon at 10. And I started Monty Python around age 10. So
yeah, speaking of the Lampoon, no, and I think that's wonderful. I'm not criticizing you there. I think you have an advantage
I
on
was
that
just
stuff.
old
I
before my
didn't really
time.
think about that stuff, Or I would have saved big boy comics, which were very much ephemera that has not remained with us, but that I found fascinating as a kid. Did you go to
I
big boy
love collecting. Now, we didn't get to see each other just because of time constraints. I went down to California in October, and it's the first time in 2 years I've been down there. And went to a smallish convention in Pleasant Hill. And one of the things I bought is somebody had like about 10 copies of old big boy comics from like the 70s, 80s, 90s, and they're $1 a piece. And there were ones I didn't have because I'm not really trying to collect all of them, but if I see them cheap and just ones I don't have, I'm buying them. So, I was like, ooh, because
Do
I
you
used
remember which ones you have? You're that familiar with your collection?
not by number, but if I see
Do
a cover,
you accidentally buy the same thing more than once? This
I
happens to
don't
me
do
with,
it happen. I don't do it a lot, but I have.
it happens to me with like Cracked, because like there's a whole period of mid-70s Cracked where they all kind of look the same. They all have Fonzie on the cover. You know what I mean?
It happened to me when I was voraciously collecting Harvey comics, which now I have them all, so I don't really care now. But with Harvey comics, lots of bright yellow covers, lots of similar looking covers, lots of ones, and also they used to have an ad. I don't know if you read Harvey's ever, but they always had an ad that pictured the covers in them. So I had the covers memorized in my head, and actually, sometimes I got confused in the other way around is because I used to see the picture of the cover in the ad that I thought I already had it. And then I go through my collection and go,
right.
I'm missing that one. So yeah, with things like that, I had to get a list,
Yeah.
And then I started getting a list for other things when I was collecting them because I have them all now, as like Cracked and stuff like that. So now I tend to just not go in with a list. If something's cheap enough, like the big boy ones, I'm pretty sure I didn't get any duplicates. But if I did, they're only $1 a piece, and I can give them to friends or sell them or whatever. So it's not that big a deal.
Yeah, that's what I do.
Yeah, but if it was something that like I bought like and paid, which I don't tend to pay this much, but let's say I paid $100 for something, I better be certain that it's either something special like ultra mint, or something, or it's signed, or it's something I just do not have. But if I already have it and I buy it by mistake, I'm like,
Yeah.
And actually, I did buy something by mistake when I went down there. I got, those little brown books that they publish about different cities and stuff. I think I forgot the press name, but they do regional books. So, like, if you're around here, there's a Eugene book, there's a Springfield book, but in your area, there'd be a San Francisco book.
I know those.
Yeah, and they're little thin volumes on paperback.
Yeah.
So I went down to Santa Cruz area, and they had a Scotts Valley one, and I am a fan of old amusement parks, especially ones that don't exist anymore.
So, is this where the Santa's Village was?
Yes. So there's a lot of photos of Santa's Village in this, and I said, "Cool." So I bought the book. Then I come home and I find out I already had the book. I'm like,
I went to Santa's Village after it had closed when hobos were living in it.
Hobos?
Hobos. People, homeless folks, were living in the little elf cottages, which was really far out.
I never knew that. The only thing I knew, and you may not remember this because you're not in my same grade, but do you remember that vandals from my class stole pieces of property from Santa's Village and brought them back and put them around the Saratoga High School courtyard along with toilet paper and everything else? But they had like Mrs. Claus's kitchen. I remember a big sign that said that, and they got one of the Christmas trees, and I think they got one of the mushrooms, if I remember. It's like they hauled back a lot of crap from over there. And I said, how did they get in there? Because I started looking around over there in that area, and it was all overgrown with poison oak. So I didn't want to. And if you're saying hobos were
hobos and
poison oak is not a good combination.
Yeah, no, it was a dangerous landscape. Yeah. Well, no, I hear you. When I go on tour, I will sometimes visit a sort of low rent amusement parks and stuff, especially the sort of fairy tale themed places. Like there's a great one near you.
Have you been to Enchanted Forest? That's the one up
Enchanted
here.
Forest is one of the best.
Yeah.
And it's got that crazy like witch's dungeon. Like,
Yeah.
That's a far out place.
That looks like something from your act, as it were. Is that that building that's shaped like a witch with the big nose?
Oh yeah, the one that you go into the mouth of.
Yeah. It looks like something you'd have, like a paper mache version that you put on the stage or something, and have it breathe fire or smoke or something.
Yeah.
And we already mentioned Bullwinkles. Did you know there's a Bullwinkles up here? It's up in Wilsonville, which is outside Portland.
It's still open?
It's still open. It wasn't as elaborate as the one down there that's long closed. It didn't have as many of the robotic animatronic type things that they had, but I think in recent times they remodeled it and they've taken those out, unfortunately. So it's pretty straightforward, not really Bullwinkles other than in name only by now. But yeah, and I think it has some blown up drawings of Rocky and Bullwinkle, but it's pretty much, that's about it, with connection to Rocky and Bullwinkle. So
I run into Gumby's pizza every now and then here and there in the Midwest mostly, but it's not terribly Gumby-ish. Anywho, you asked me about Freaky.
Yeah, I asked a question. 20 minutes later, we're finally going to answer.
Yeah.
Whoops. No, you're not. You're answering your phone now.
I'm working on the cover for the next issue, the cover and the back cover, now created by you.
Ooh.
So here's
I have not seen it. Okay.
So it's just starting to come together, but he's crossing the street and is surprised to find his frenemy popping out.
That's the front.
And then the back.
They give each other a hug.
Yeah.
And you made him more slimy and disgusting than I probably drew in my little sample.
Yeah, I kept redrawing it slimier, more disgusting. We try to bring out the slime when we can. Big slime fan.
That's what I like. I mean, I have all the issues in front of me. I'll just quickly hold them up. Freaky 1 through 6 right here. And I had to go through them the other day because I told you I was on flipping pages, whatever podcast, and he asked me ahead of time, you put stuff in Freaky, haven't you? And I go, yeah, I think I've been in every issue except for the first one. Well, it turns out I was wrong. I just probably have been contributing since about the first one, but issue 3, I think, was 4, I forgot what I said, but I flipped through the pages and I was starting to look at all the different monsters, and I said, you know what I like? Is that phone gonna stop? Anyway, you know what I like is that the more disgusting kind of monsters that kind of appear around in various articles and stuff like that. So
yeah, there are a lot of disgusting monsters. I think it's something that just gives people enjoyment to draw. It's easy to draw disgusting monsters too. Mm-hmm. Much harder to draw like attractive like things,
Mm-hmm.
Like Ook here.
Mm-hmm.
Ook was easy to build because he's, hairy.
Mm-hmm.
If he had to be sleek, it would be tougher.
Right. And also on that show, so we went through everything, and he was really impressed with all the different articles I read. I don't know how they're received because, it's like you're the one doing it. So do you get any letters about anything or any issues that you had? Because you put letters, but I don't know if you print all of them, and so.
Oh yeah, I can tell people like them.
Okay.
I'm not sure how. I just get that sense. I think everything in Freaky has been commented on positively. Yeah. And sometimes I'll put something in and where I'm thinking like, maybe only I am gonna like this. But that's always one that someone says something about. You just never know. You know what I mean?
Well, that's why when I'm submitting you things, I don't know what you really want half the time, and so I go all over the map. I mean, it's like I never told you how I really submit things. It's like I don't sit down and say, gotta write something for Freaky, gotta write something for Freaky. It's usually like I'm brushing my teeth or I'm sitting down or someplace usually inconvenient, and suddenly some weird idea comes to my head. I go, I gotta tell Andrew that one. And either you say, hey, that's pretty good, or I don't know, it's like, but I figured.
Yeah, or some of them I print out and I file away possibly for later. That's a good way to do it. I don't, ultimately it winds up being just whatever strikes me as being something I want to put in at the moment. It varies issue to issue a little bit too.
Yeah.
But in my case, I think because I'm the only guy doing it, it's a one-man operation. It just becomes whatever like strikes me in my mood, where I'm like, oh yeah, that feels right. So it's totally subjective, and I wind up turning down most stuff, I would say.
Really?
Just because there isn't room and it doesn't quite fit where I'm at for whatever reason.
Do you get a lot of submissions?
Oh yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah. There aren't, and I don't even know how people find me exactly. I mean, I work to try to get the magazine out there. I print 1,000 of them. Yeah. So that's incentive to do something with them, Yeah. And I always get at least like 700 out the door before I move on to the next issue. Part of that is I just don't have room to store more than 3 boxes of each issue. So like 300 is like 3 boxes,
Yeah.
So 100 of those go to subscribers, and then that leaves whatever my math was, like 600 more to do something with. I will, I'll travel around. When I travel around the country playing music, I'll get them into stores. I will try to do comic, things. So I just push it out wherever I can. I walk around with them, and if I see like an interesting shop or a strange car, I will, like shove it inside, like just trying to spread the word wherever. And then so people, a certain amount of people see that, or online, but I'm not online too much, but people will see it and say, hey, I draw weird stuff. Can I send you some? So I get quite a bit. And a lot of it is really good, but just doesn't, for the reasons I can't quite explain, isn't, sort of exactly what I'm doing. A lot of your submissions are valuable because they're in the humor magazine tradition, which is a harder to, unless you like grew up reading it, people don't really understand that stuff that well. More people send either just comic strips, or like gag cartoons or something. But like the humor article is like sort of a foreign object at this point. Do you know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
So like, I don't get too much of that. So but then
I try to do that because to me, if I ran the magazine, I always think, what would I like to see in there? And it's like, I don't want to see mad stuff per se. I just want to see stuff that I know is in the vein of that type of publication. Is like. And sometimes you say things that'll give me a great idea, which, one ran that one time. And I think we were just having a conversation like we're doing now. And I mentioned this on the Flippin' show, is that, whatever happened to dungeons with people hanging on the walls, it's like that used to be a thing in magazines, and that's, and then I don't think it was that moment, it was just like a week or two later, I was just like thinking about it, and I go, yeah, that used to be in Plop, it used to be in Cracked, it used to be in other things. I should do something with that, and that's where that idea, and then you ended up publishing it. So
yeah. And then did you see the letter? There was a letter, I think it was from Cam Hayden, the artist in Canada. Oh, but he went under the name like SK Jiggler, and he was writing from the point of view. There's this big bang from upstairs. I don't know if I annoyed my neighbor or not. We have very thin walls.
Oh, okay.
I'll have to wait and see. But
podcast here.
Yeah, one of those hanging men was based on a toy I had. Wait, I will demonstrate. Since we're on video, I'm going to show you this.
All right, very good. Now, where did you get that?
Well, as a kid, this was just something in toy stores. It's one of those sort of rubbery.
I've never seen it before. Is it part of a series or just some weird rubber guy?
Yeah, part of a series, I think called Spooky Cookies or Forgotten Prisoners. It had different names. Just one of these weird
Interesting.
stories. But so he was another hanging, prisoner
Yeah.
character. I put him in, and then we got a bit of mail. Someone recognized him and did a little spoof as if he was a relative. So yeah, people do read this stuff, Mark. People read it and enjoy
Cool.
it. Yeah. So it is tough not being able to print all the submissions, and I try to refer folks to other publications, which I'm hoping more will start up. I keep hearing about more humor publications, but then it doesn't usually happen.
Yeah. Well, the ones that I know of that I do subscribe to, of course, we mentioned before, American Bystander, but that one's a
which is
little
sort of my
bit.
inspiration for taking Freaky seriously, I would say, and doing the Patreon model.
You know, it's a little bit difficult to get in his publication because he wants kind of like a more sophisticated than National Lampoon, kind of a New Yorker vibe. And
Yeah.
For me, it's like I can get National Lampoon and I can get New Yorker cartoons, but to kind of mesh them together is like really difficult for me. So anything I've tried to submit to him just is flatly rejected because it's just not the type of stuff he does. You're more in the vein of what I know and what I can do. It's like, I think even back in the day, it's like, well, I've never submitted anything to New Yorker because I never thought I would be able to do that type of cartoon, that they want.
Yeah, the New Yorker is so weirdly specific with that sort of gray wash and sort of jiggity line. We know people now, though, that are in it.
Yes. Lonnie Millsap is one that I know. And he made these little collections of cartoons for years. At any time I ever see him, I don't know if you've seen him at shows, he does these little square volumes. And I buy his, they're just single panel cartoons, kind of like the Far Side, but a lot of times they're either a little more dirty or a little more clever than, and somebody would say, cleverer than Far Side? Yes, cleverer than Far Side. I didn't think he would make it in the New Yorker. He said, oh, I'd love to be in New Yorker, but he made it. And so he's been in there a few times. So, it's kind of like you with Mad, it's like, I don't know how long you tried to submit things. I forgot what you said previously before you got in there, but you did get in there a few times.
It was a bit of a fluke. I think I had some good timing, and it was at the very end.
Yeah. What I think is funny, and of course it's in your shot right there, you had the Christmas one. Since they reprint that verbatim every single year, you get in it every single year with that one Christmas piece. And I said, wow, I should have done a Christmas piece. I would have gotten something in there right before.
Yeah, no, it's I'm very honored that that's in there.
Yeah. So it makes it look like you've had like about 20 submissions, and you really just, you said 3 or 4 or something like that. It wasn't very many.
I got very lucky. Yeah. I mean, I was lucky to just have that on my resume for sure. And I milk it, like I put it on my bio and stuff.
Yeah. And then I still see it. I don't know, there was only 3 published. You didn't have extra ones that didn't get published. Did you? Because I have to go through. It's like I get the Australian Mad too. And it seems like it appears in there, and it's like, how many did you do? You only did 3 of them.
Well, Australian Mad is different.
Yeah.
I will sometimes just send stuff down there and they'll run it. Just.
Oh, so you are still submitting to them, are you?
Yeah. To the Australian one.
So it might have new material. Okay.
All right. Oh, there are a couple that are similar to what was in. Yeah.
Okay, because I thought you've got to have been in there more than 3 times.
No.
Okay. All right. That's weird. And it's funny. In the old days, I would never have subscribed to Australian Mad, but in the old days, I would get mad, crack crazy, sick. Well, I wasn't getting sick at the time.
What I love about Australian Mad is there's a lot of Tom Bunk in that one. Yeah. The editor really loves Tom Bunk, and so there's all that really gross Tom Bunk cartoons, and then they do the Mad Classics is the alternating thing.
So I didn't answer my question, or you asked me a question. What do I get? So American Bystander is one. There's this other one which Mort Todd alerted me to, and I subscribe to it, but it's very right wing, which is kind of surprising. It's called Flip City, and they talk about we're going to be, I'll just be blunt, we're going to be Trumper, we're going to be. Oh, this is on my end. No, I can't talk to you now, Charles. Anyway, I'm in the middle of recording. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh, so they kind of do the anti-vax stuff. They kind of do the the libtard stuff and everything like that. But occasionally, and this is what's really weird, is they actually come up with something that's genuinely funny, and that's the part that kind of amazes me, amuses me, and mystifies me. So, and I don't mind reading humor on all sides. Usually, though, right-wing humor is not very funny because they don't understand humor. And the times, like I said, that they actually do something that's kind of funny, is it something that actually probably could be freaky or mad or something like that. It's almost like, oh, you're not trying to put this stupid right-wing slant that isn't funny at all, and you just did something that was actually kind of sort of genuinely funny. So that one's gone about 8 issues, so it's about the same length of time as yours, and it's based out of LA.
It's a very niche market based in LA. Who in LA would read that?
I don't know. It's Orange County is a hotbed for Trumperism and stuff like that.
Okay.
So, or has been. I think it's kind of changing.
Wow. Well, that's just depressing, Mark.
Yeah. Well, that's your competition. No. Then the other one, of course, is cartoons, which is the same old cartoons with a new publisher, and they've actually been pretty good about getting the artists that used to be in cartoons in the latter days. Like, I don't know if you ever read cartoons. It's like,
oh, Will, I love cartoons, and I love the new cartoons too.
Yeah, and there's this guy who did Crass and Bernie, and they got him back, and he's been in there since the 70s. So.
For a bit. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't feel terribly much like the old cartoons, but I like it for what it is.
Yeah, but I've never thought that was very funny anyway. It was always kind of a situation where it's kind of amusing, but it's more like if you like good drawings of cars, and usually the Big Daddy Roth, giant gear types.
Yeah, that stuff is great. And the 60s ones had some really weird underground artists involved, and you have that semi-psychedelic art in the early 60s.
Yeah.
Because there's also hang on.
You got something.
Let's take a walk through my collection.
Hey, wow.
All right.
Okay. I have some of those.
Early cartoons.
Yeah. Isn't it Peterson Publications? Wasn't that the?
Yeah, you gotta just dig the. It's like almost like an underground comic, right?
Yeah, I actually like those earlier ones, but they're hard to find sometimes. So.
Yeah, I got a bunch.
The one like that one's probably a bit easier to find. The more recent you go, they're easier to find.
Yeah. But then there are some very strange, like similar publications.
Cycletoons, yeah.
Cycletoons is good. And then a really wild one is Drag
Cartoons.
Yeah. And they do, so here's Gilbert Shelton, I think, who I think went on to do the Furry Freak Brothers.
Yeah, he did Wonder Warthog. Yeah, Wonder Warthog also appeared in Help and its own comic book and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And then there was also Hot Rod cartoons.
Man, you're getting a lot of these.
Well, I've always picked this stuff up. And again, it's from whenever I'm on tour, I'll go to the local comics shops, try to get freaky in there, and then pick up whatever they have of Cracked, Mad, and you know what I mean? So like, that's how I got my collection.
I used to avoid all those, but now I'm picking those up too, because there's nothing else for me to collect. I have.
Well, it wasn't part of my childhood because I wasn't really into cars.
Yeah, I would buy it because I bought everything. So I buy cartoons too, but that was my problem with it. I didn't think it was particularly funny. I didn't mind the card drawings. I just wanted it to be funnier. So eventually, after a couple of years of buying it, and I didn't even buy it every issue. It was probably like 2 or 3 times a year. I think it may come out 6 times a year, and I probably bought it every other issue or something. And then after a couple of years of that, I just said, I'd rather buy other stuff that I really like. But now I'm so desperate for anything humor. It's like I've subscribed to the Harvard Lampoon.
Oh, so is that an actual magazine that
it
they
is an
do?
actual magazine. They don't do the general parody ones anymore that they used to do. Like I have a People magazine parody as Brooke Shields holding up a giant fish, came out in the 80s, and then they did like a Newsweek parody with the atomic bomb on the cover and stuff like. And back in the day, the guys that actually created Lampoon, they did a giant Life magazine parody that was full size. There's kind of like the precursor to National Lampoon, just to kind of test the waters, the pilot issue is, but they don't tend to do those anymore. They just kind of tend to do just Harvard Lampoon, and apparently the Stanford Chaparral still is around too as a publication, and a few other college ones, but a lot of them kind of went by the wayside, and they're only online and stuff like that, and I'm trying to think if I subscribe to any other ones. Those are the ones I basically know about. Oh, I found this magazine. I forgot the name of it, but they put out like 6 issues over the last 6 years. Like they do 1 issue a year. And I wish I remember the name of it off the top of my head, but it actually had some pretty funny stuff. Unfortunately, it's only like 12 pages long. So, but it is full color. So, and I can't remember the name of it. I'll have to text you later about it. But I mean, so I'm so desperate to try to find any humor out there, and there's like nothing, it's really weird, and it's kind of surprising that Mad's still kind of out there, sort of, even with its reprinting. It's like, and nobody's kind of coming in to fill the void.
Well, I think the problem is the medium, right?
Yeah.
The printed publication, the magazine. It's how long are those even going to be a thing for most people? You know what I mean? So we wind up, probably all the ones you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
Cartoon and Mad are bigger, but I mean, American Bystander and myself are probably similar in doing about 1,000 copies. I think Cartoons does about 15,000. They get newsstand distribution though. I see them in like up north, they're like the Fred Meyers and stuff. That's where I picked it up. And then Mad still has their subscribers, probably still like 70,000 or something, 80,000.
Right.
And I guess they sell a few through the comic stores. I guess they're having some new stuff though. Tom Richmond said he was doing something new for Mad, so it's not all reprint. And I bet Susie, if she has any chance to put new stuff in there, she probably will. Yeah. But so when are you doing yours, Mark? When is Frolic?
Frolic number 2.
Yeah, you mentioned this a few times. Life is short. It can be done. If I'm doing it, you can do it.
You don't do your issue 100%. See, that's the thing. When I did that Frolic, it was 52 pages.
Oh no,
written and drawn by me, and that's like a rarity for me.
You don't do it all by yourself.
Yeah, but I did that issue.
Like John Severin.
Yeah. So
you're not gonna do more though. You're not gonna have other contributors.
Not yet.
I understand. So for a while I've been doing it twice a year regularly. I probably like the last 3 or 4 issues, but I think I might have to slow down again. It takes too much energy and too much money. So after number 7, instead of waiting 6 months, I might wait 8. You know what I mean?
Right. So,
but, the response has been good. I'm especially gratified by how people have sort of taken to my mascot. Like other folks will draw Freddie Freaknik, which gives me a good feeling. It's similar to, Alfred E. Newman. And that kind of, iconic recognition. We'll see what we can do for Freddie Freaknik. But
can I interrupt you right now? Okay.
Yeah.
We're going to have to stop, but we're going to resume it in like 5 minutes. And the reason why is because my friend Charles, this is his account, and he's going absolutely nutso right now, even though I told him I was going to do this tonight. And I will resume on my account, and we will have part 2 coming up soon.
Okay, sounds
and then
good.
we'll talk about your music. So, okay.
Okay, cool.
All right. So this is the end of part 1 of Fun Ideas podcast, and we will resume shortly. All right. Thanks.